Hey, Shalom. I'd like to start off by saying, Call Halayim La Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Harakak Radash Ma'amah. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, double honors to our elder apostle as well, and her one by Yasha Allah down in the lines in camp. Salutations to the Akim that are pushing the truth, sincerity, and truth, and peace and blessing to the men, women, and children that believe in the name Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai. I am Knox on by Yasha Allah from the lines in the Yasha Allah camp. This is another spiritual hydration. All right. This is going into um kind of like bleeding out the last lesson that I did, last few lessons that I did, but basically the base of it comes from like, there was a time in my life where I would get frustrated because, it felt like people would sit there and analyze everything that I do and look for perfection. And if I do anything wrong, it's extolled to the clouds. See, this especially since I've been in the truth. It's been like that my whole life, but more so since I've been in the truth, right? And I used to get angry with the people for that, but then I started to realize, is it the people that I'm really dealing with? What if this Yahweh Shem Shai using those people to show me something that he sees within me, right? Maybe it's him trying to hold me to that standard that these outside people, you know, won't hold themselves to, but will try to hold me to that standard. And I realized I started seeing it in other brothers too, going through the same thing. And then I started seeing it on a carnal perspective, right? Um, uh, Look at celebrities. They're they can't even like they do anything. They do one thing that a regular person does. Like say for instance, if a celebrity gets a domestic, what I'm saying, gets into the domestic disputes with their partner, this it's looked upon as like like that happens every day. Not saying it's right, but it happens every day. But when a certain celebrity does it, you'll write them off as from being a person. Be like they just, oh, how could they when you got your next door neighbor or your family member that's doing the same thing, but it's not looked at as harsh. So when you get a certain status, like where much is given, much is required. So when you have a certain status on this earth, you're going to be held to a certain standard, and you're going to be a spectacle and being scrutinized um, if you fall short of any of that. But understanding what it is, it's refinement, you know. So it's like, so it's like, are have you wondered why every mistake you make gets noticed while others seem to get it past? You feel what I'm saying? So the Lord showed me something. Like, what if scrutiny isn't punishment? What if it's preparation? I was a warehouse manager at a job, and I went from a regular worker to warehouse manager, supervisor, director of operations, all within 3 years, 3 years. But each when I was a regular worker, my work wasn't really under the microscope. It wasn't scrutinized, or you know what I'm saying. And then when I became a warehouse manager, you know, everything I did they started paying closer attention to. But then when I came a director of operations, when I got hired for that position, the guy that hired me, he said, "All right, now prepare for scrutiny, because from this point, everything that you do is going to be under a microscope from your peers." And I felt like that was unfair, but he was like, "Don't take it in that way. It is not unfair. You want that in your life. That means you're something important." That's what he said, right? So I had to realize, the scrutiny might not be punishment; it might be preparation uh, for something else better. All right. So let's get a couple scriptures going to it. And Lord willing, this lesson edify and serve His purpose for the hope elect, the ones that truly believe in the name of Yahweh Shem Shai. I know I got long with it with the little introduction or just the synopsis on what this lesson is going to be about, but hopefully it's edifying. Okay. So So this is 1 Corinthians 4:9. It says, "For I think that Yahweh has set forth us the apostles last, as it were appointed to death." Right? Because it feels like that at times. It says, "For we are made a spectacle unto the world, to angels and to men. We are fools for Yahweh's sake, but ye are wise in Yahweh. We are weak, but ye are strong. Ye are honorable, but ye are despised." So we become both of those, you know. So we're being looked upon, being the angels are jumping up and down, giving praise and cheering for the works that we're doing. And then you have the workers of iniquity, the workers of the world, that's trying to pinpoint and find everything wrong with what we do in our walks of life. You see that? Says so. It's like the closer we get to Yahweh Bashim Shai, the more visible our life becomes. Because the spectacle is something that's put on display, you know, for everybody to see. So the angels in the heavens, the angels here on earth, meaning the messengers, us, we become focal points of each other, for each other. Because when you see a brother going through something, right, and he stands 10 toes down on it and takes it on the chin and keeps it moving, and you happen to go through the same thing later on in life, you can go back and remember that focal point where you see the other brother took it like a champ, and that can inspire you to want to be great, or be able to make it through. See that? So so the main thing is, the closer we walk with Yahweh Shem Shai, the more visible our life becomes. All right. So what does that mean? That means great responsibility. So like using the point where I was a warehouse worker, not a lot of responsibility. Warehouse manager, more responsibility. Director of operations, ultimate responsibility in the logistics part of the company, right? So so with that being said, I might not have to do much physical work, but I have more responsibilities in that role than I did when I was just a regular warehouse worker. So when much is given, much is required. You see that? So let's get that. Let's get Slacky. Let's get Luke 12:48. It says, all right, it says, but he that knew not, wait, no, yeah, is that it? Okay, but he that knew not and did not, wait, hold on. Okay, okay, let's start at 40, right? Luke 12:40. Be ye therefore ready also, for the Son of Man, Yahweh Shai, cometh at an hour when ye think not. Then Peter said unto him, Lord, speakest thou this parable unto us, or even to all? He said, the Lord said, who then is that faithful? All right, it says, verse 42. It says, and the Lord said, who then is that faithful and wise servant whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household, to give them their portion of meat in due season? Meaning, like, who is going to come up in the rankings? Who is going to become put on as the elect? Who is going to put on the work, right, and do what it takes to be a ruler over Yahweh Shem Shai's household? See that? It says, blessed is the servant whom the Lord when he cometh shall find doing so, meaning doing the work, acting like you already got to position before they hire you permanently. It's like we're in working at a temp agency right now, and we're trying to get on permanent, and they're only going to pick the best workers to put on permanent. Many are called, but only few are chosen. So there becomes a certain level of responsibility that comes with that. So but we also got to be careful as becoming spectacles at what eyes that people that are close to us looking, what lenses are they looking through? Because sometimes people can get out of pocket and they're supposed to be spiritual right along with you, but they can look at you through carnal lenses and they're scrutinizing the flesh. And that's not what you want their focal point to be, because we all come short of the mark. You see that? We all are wrapped in the sinful flesh. So we're not gonna the only thing we can be perfect in this flesh is in faith. So 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 we're gonna have some faults. So, but if you're looking at an individual through the spiritual lenses, you'll see them with having faults, and you'll see them still pushing towards the mark. See that? So you have to be careful what lenses others view you through, and you allow them to view you through, and what lenses we also view ourselves through. Because sometimes we listen to other people, and we start to look at ourselves through the same lenses that they're looking through. That's not going to help us. No, we got to always maintain that spiritual eye, making sure we're looking at everything from a spiritual perspective. All right. So we got to get out here, do this work, put on as the elect, right, and be blessed. And when Yahushua shows up, and that's what we're doing, right, being that spectacle of the earth, and which brings forth refinement. See that? All right. Verse 42, 4, it says, of a truth I say unto you, that he will make him ruler over all he hath. But if that servant say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to beat the manservants and maidens, and eat and drink and be drunken, right? Because you be coming part of the world. You're not even looking at yourself through the proper perspective. Once you become that, because you're becoming like the world. So the ones that view you in the world are going to see you as this and going to accept you as that, because that's how they are also. But the ones that are in the truth, they're looking through the spiritual lenses, are going to see all that and know that you're full of shit. Because we're always supposed to be on our P's and Q's at all times. So sometimes that scrutiny helps us see something that we haven't seen and get rid of it before Yahweh Shah shows up. All right, verse 46 says, the Lord of that servant will come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in the hour when he is not aware, and will cut him asunder, and will appoint him to the portion with the unbelievers. All right. But the point, let me go down to verse 48. The point is in 48. It says, but he that knew not and did commit these things worthy of stripes shall be beaten with few stripes. For unto whosoever much is given, that's the point. This is the point. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required. And to whom men have committed much, of him will he ask the more. Right. So the further we get into this truth, right, we 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 much more is gonna be required of us. You see that? So so we ask ourselves, like, I know I used to ask myself this, like, why am I being like judged like this or held accountable like this? And it says, I mean, it's because, it's because, like, that's what the Lord wants out of us, showing us a difference between them and us. So the Lord has different expectations, right? Because our purpose is different. See that? So that scrutiny that we go through, that we suffer, like we said in plenty of lessons before, is for our refinement. I'm not gonna make this too long. We get a couple more scriptures, close it out. This is Hebrews 12 and 6. It says, from whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth and scourges every son whom he receiveth. Right. So that being a spectacle of the earth can be painful at times, but it can be also fulfilling too, because it works both ways. Just like how people look at you to scrutinize all the everything that you may do wrong, and try to focus upon that and pray upon that. There's others that are out there looking at you as an example of righteousness, right? And you're giving them faith and motivation to follow in that same light, and also being able to take the scrutiny. Hebrews 12:6, it says, "For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth." So that, and he's putting us in a position for him to be able to receive us. Is things that he needs for us to, you know, he needs for us to be purified. So this is the process that we go through, you know. Even with Daniel, when they tried to find an occasion against Daniel, they said the only way we can find an occasion against him if it's against him and his God. See that? So really, we're being purified and made in the perfect image of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. And we must be accepting of it. And when these individuals are in front of us trying to, break us down, we know what the purpose is for, and they don't even understand why they're standing off facing in front of us, because the Lord eventually is making them his enemy once if they become an enemy of ours. Especially if they're not able to look at you through a spiritual eye and they continue to look at you from a carnal lens, then that's pure separation. So, you know, the Lord is using us as spectacles of the earth to show the world separation of who's his, because they're not being scrutinized. You know, the Lord is letting them run free and do it as they will. But the Lord is chastising us so we can be made in his perfect image. Because the scripture says when he shows up, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is, and we'll be able to view ourselves from that same point, looking at ourselves through the lenses that Yahweh Shemel Shai looks through at us. All right. Lord, willing this lesson to edify and serve its purpose for the hope of the elect, the ones who truly believe in the name Yahweh Shemel Shai. With that, I'd like to say, call Halayim, La Yahweh. Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Harakak Wadash Ma'amah. Double honors to the elder apostle of the great millstone, double honors to my elder apostle as well. I heard one by Yasha Allah down in the lines of the camp. Salutation to the Akim of the person of truth, sincerity and truth, and peace and blessing to the men, women, and children that believe in the name Yahweh Shemel Shai. Shalom.